I did notice that in referring to the name of the Creator, you certainly said Hashem. So I'm curious right now, right? I'm curious as to whether it's because Samaritans have adopted Rabbinic Judaism's way of honoring the Creator's name, or is this something that we share in common? Talk to us about how the name of the Creator is revered among the Samaritans, and what are your views when it comes to saying his name aloud and pronouncing his name as it is spelled?
Right. There are different interpretations for this. For example, in the Samaritan community, one of the known things is that only the high priest used to be able to pronounce the name of the Lord when he was in front of the Ark of the Covenant.
Yes.
In the traditions, it is also believed that the name, to the holiness of the name, we're not allowed to say it, and therefore we say Shema. Shema is like saying the name, but it like flipped in Hebrew. We say Shema, it's Hashem if you flip it.
It's very similar to Aramaic too, by the way, in that sense. And that would make then, and I know that there are similarities, some grammarians point out, between Aramaic and ancient Hebrew as spoken by Samaritans.
Mm-hmm. Correct. There are certain, there's definitely relations between Samaritan Hebrew and Aramaic. But like when you talk about, for example, what we were talking about, the Torah, like when we're talking about the name of the Lord, then we really do not exactly have a specific reason why. So some people will tell you we forgot the tradition.
Yes.
Most people will tell you it's because of the holiness of the name. And then there's the thing where the high priest, at that time, the people, when our own version of the Messiah comes, his name is Taheb. So we have our own Messiah, but his name is Taheb.
I was certainly going to ask you about that as well.
Sure.
I mean, we're on the same page, brother. We're on the same page. So since you brought it up, it's only fitting that we use this moment to land here. In Rabbinic Judaism, there is this idea of the Messiah, the Mashiach to come. Of course, unlike Messichim or Messianic Israelites and Messianic Jews, in Rabbinic Judaism, they do not believe that the Messiah has come already. They believe that we are still waiting. Of course, Messianic Jews believe that he has come and he will come again. The first thing I want to ask you is, what is the Samaritan view of the story of Yeshua? Right? I'm sure that that's something that comes up because there are, even though it's very small, there are Samaritan Christians. There are Samaritans that actually embrace Christianity. So give us a perception of how the Samaritans view Yeshua in history.
Right. I think when we kind of talk about Samaritans from a Christian perspective, it's hard to ignore the word or the sentence "Good Samaritan," right? Because that's when the first thing that comes to mind, the story of the Good Samaritan. And we also have the story of the Samaritan woman who met Jesus at the well. This is, I believe, in the book of John.
Yes.
So again, Samaritans do not have the New Testament. We do not really believe exactly in the New Testament. However, it is believed that Jesus, came to this place here, and people were surprised that he came. Like, Jesus was considered Jewish, and for a Jew to come to Samaria 2,000 years ago was something of odd. Even in the book of John, it is mentioned that the Samaritan woman, when she saw Jesus and she recognized him as Jewish, she told him, "Whoa, like, how come you're asking me for water? You are Jewish, I'm a Samaritan." And she said that because at that time, Samaritans and Jews were not really good friends. They had, they both are accusing each other of changing the Torah, and sometimes they helped each other's enemies. So they were not really on good terms. What's interesting is that saying that the New Testament, let's say it was what the book of John is, 2,000 years or something like that, 1,900 years.
Yes.
And what did the woman say to Jesus? She said, "Our fathers worshipped on this mountain, but you and your fathers say that it's in Jerusalem, the place that which will be worshipped." So this difference goes back 1,900 years and even more, right? There are other mentions of Samaritans in the Bible. For example, there's this miracle where Jesus performs a miracle on 10 what's the word, libers? Is that the way to pronounce it?
Yes.
And then apparently out of those 10 libers, only one person out of those 10 libers came back to thank Jesus, and he was a Samaritan. So apparently Jesus knew that Samaritans really had conflicts with the Jewish people, and they used it as an example to love your neighbor. So again, I want to just clarify: Samaritans only believe, like, as a main prophet, it's Moses, it's Moshe. That's end of the matter. However, we do appreciate like that we're in a sense seen as we're used as a good example. If someone helped someone across the street, it's a good Samaritan. We love that. We want to be a good example of to help your neighbor or whatever. In fact, there's even a law in the US and also in Australia, I believe, where it's called the Good Samaritan law, where if someone basically killed someone accidentally or made his situation worse medically, he is protected by the Good Samaritan law.
That's a fact. So, you know your stuff, Abood. You certainly know your stuff, and I'm surprised that not really looking into books like Isaiah, Ezekiel, but you seem to have a good familiarity with the New Testament Gospels, especially as it relates to the story of the Samaritans. That's quite impressive, I would say, right? So one thing I want to make sure that is clear for my listening audience is that Samaritans do believe that Yeshua existed, right? There's no question about his historicity. Could you clarify that?
Yeah, there are. Even Muhammad is the same thing. Muhammad, for example, the Prophet Muhammad is believed to have given the Samaritans a specific letter to help them prove that they're the people of the book, right? So that they can be treated as the people of the book. And the same way as Jesus, it is believed that he did come to the land here. There are, limits of what beliefs we have. For example, was he crucified and raised to God? These are things that, Samaritans, frankly, we do not exactly believe this. However, we do believe in his, like you said, physical presence in the Holy Land and coming here.
Says a lot.
Yeah,
that says a lot, because I want to point out the Samaritan acknowledgement of Yeshua as a historical person for a very significant reason, right? You don't follow the religious narrative of the New Testament. You don't believe that he's the Messiah, but you also don't necessarily doubt that he walked the earth. In fact, you confirm that he walked the earth, which says a lot, because you don't have any religious motive to make him historical. You don't have any spiritual motive to make him historical. So your acknowledgement of him being historical is based on your knowledge of history and your own traditions. And that, Abood, that says a lot. So that's why, I wanted to make sure that we had that clarity. So teach us, because you are teaching, right? Teach us about the Samaritan Messiah, right? Tell us his name and tell us his role.
Sure. So I will start by saying that there is not many pages and books written about him. There are mentionings that we begin in the Torah. And what's interesting is that's in the Samaritan Pentateuch. It's the mentioning of this Taheb, the Messiah, the Samaritan equivalent of the Messiah, is mentioned in a place where if you go and look into the Jewish Masoretic text, you cannot find it. And I believe it's right after the 10 Commandments, right? So after the 10 Commandments of the Samaritans, especially in the 5th book, Deuteronomy, the Ve'ela Dvarim, the mentioning of, it goes like this, that God promises Moses, first of all, he knows that they are Am Kashe, that they are a hard nation, that they will keep rebelling and keep making problems. So God told him that Nevi Akim Lachem, that I will bring up a prophet to them like you. So in a sense, there are some characteristics that will be similar to Moses, apparently, by the time. And that he will come, like he said, Aik, which means he will come from the tribes of, in the Samaritan traditions, it is believed that he will not be a Levi, but from the other tribes, perhaps from the tribe of Joseph, that it is believed.
Yes.
Now, the Torah didn't give us a lot of qualities about the tribe. However, other people who are considered sages, and not prophets, but sages, have had dreams about him, and those dreams were kind of made in a beautiful way to describe what happens when the Taheb comes. And some people in the community say that there are divine dreams. Some people say that they are, that they're beautiful and we can learn wisdom from them, but they're not necessarily true. And I'll give you an example. For example, the Taheb will come here and he will reveal the temple. He will reveal, in our equivalent, we don't have a temple like Solomon temple. We only had a tabernacle, the tent, and all the tools in the temple, all the tools that the Torah mentions, like the menorah and such and such. Now, in the Samaritan traditions, the temple, the tabernacle, was it vanished basically on top of Mount Gerizim. Historians say it was destroyed. In the Samaritan traditions, it has vanished by God. God really hid it after the Samaritans and the nations have basically sinned. So it is believed that it is hidden around the mountain here, but we do not know where. We will not know where in the Samaritan traditions it is believed until this Taheb comes, and he will reveal it. He will bring back the sacrifices on Mount Gerizim, the Korbanim, and there will also be the unity of all of the children of Israel. What happens when there's unity? What happens is, the choshen that the high priest used to wear that had 12,
ephod,
right? Yeah. So all of those would light up. Only if those 12 stones light up, then the high priest could continue his work in the tabernacle. This is in the Samaritan tradition that there are 12 for a reason. And of course, the Torah mentions that these are for the tribes. And those would light up when the tribes are behaving well and are united in a specific way. So this is the Samaritan tradition, that the high priest would be able to perform it when all the tribes are, kind of aligned with Hashem, like Tzaddik ve'Yashar. So, but there's not much I can tell over than that on the Taheb. I'm still learning more.
Okay, I appreciate that.